question I get quite often is, what is seasteading? And seasteading started out, I guess, in 2008. It's a movement. It started out as a nonprofit, so it's called the Seasteading Institute, based in California. But I think just a couple months ago, seasteading is actually a word that's recognized by the Oxford Dictionary, and what it means is living on platforms on the open oceans and with new forms of society. So the way I got involved in seasteading is I was a government minister in French Polynesia, so a lot of people know my country by the name of Tahiti. And when I left the government, I was looking at interesting opportunities for what we could do, especially in terms of sea level rise mitigation. It's an issue that's quite front of mind for a lot of Pacific Islanders, especially now. And I had come across this institute, read about them. They were there was a lot of media focus on them back in 2008, 2010, 12. So basically I reached out to the institute and said my understanding was that they had built a huge network of specialists, of aquapreneurs, of scientists, researchers, investors, but what the movement was missing was the support, strong support of a government that was willing to have a light hand on regulation and allow such an ambitious project as the world's first sustainable, self-sustaining floating island. So French Polynesia had the advantage when I reached out to seasteading to have several things that the Institute was interested in. And one of the first questions they asked was about connectivity. So, is your country connected to the internet backbone? Connectivity is obviously crucial for big data that's going to be generated by the researchers, the scientists. So the first thing was, do you have a submarine cable? So we checked that one off. 2010, French Polynesia connected to Hawaii, so we're right on the internet backbone. Huge unused capacity, I think 99% unused, so obviously available for research. And the second major concern was about hurricanes, cyclones, and tsunamis. So basically, all right, we're going to be doing this pilot project, floating island. Obviously, the weather and the situation in your country is important to us. So we did some research. I already knew from being from French Polynesia that this was a very rare occurrence. I think we've had 2 hurricanes in the last 100 years that had significant damage. There was property damage, very light loss of life, and tsunamis are not really an issue for us. We're in the middle of the South Pacific, so we get at least an 8-hour window before any tsunami were to hit us, but just given the geomorphology of the islands, we don't get these high waves that you get when you have a continental shelf. The objective of the pilot is to get all of these technologies tested on a smaller scale. It's small, yet we should be able to support around 200 people. So our objective is 200 to 250 people living full-time. There'd be about a third research and scientists, a third will be people who just love to live on seasteads, and we've got a long list of people who want to come live on a seastead. Another third, we believe, are going to be startups and entrepreneurs that are building technologies around the ocean. So basically all sort of blue tech. You've got underwater drones, you've got all of these different types of startups that are linked to the space. We also have the issue of energy. Now obviously we need internet on board these platforms. We will have some low energy lighting, low energy pumps, and we're going to be very careful with everything that goes on board these structures. But we feel fairly confident that there are enough ways for us to generate energy. So we're looking primarily at floating solar panels. There's a company we're in discussions with in France that's got some interesting technology. It's not just as simple as putting solar panels on the water. It's it's the corrosion resistance, it's a wave, how you mitigate for wave action. But here's the interesting part about solar panels on the water as opposed to solar panels on land. The water actually cools the solar panels, the back of the solar panels, and it increases the yield by about 20%. So we've got some advantages to that. So we're doing calculations as to exactly what surface area we would need. We're going to be using some solar panels, of course, on some of our roofs. But in addition to that, we're looking at, there's some pretty modern wave generation techniques. So we're inside the reef, but there are waves right outside of the reef. So these are units that actually are underwater, I think about 8 to 10, 12 feet underwater, so they won't disrupt normal commercial boats going out there, leisure or commercial. These are underwater and they just basically are buoys. It's fairly complex, and they just take in that wave energy. There's a little bit less, but there's still quite a bit of wave energy. And that will create addition to just the solar. So on our pilot project, we have an idea of what we're doing for power, but ultimately the objective of these platforms is to go to the open sea. The research has been done. Now I think it's a matter of funding and of focusing all of this on one major project, and that's our objective. Is first, let's do this pilot. Let's prove that these technologies work together. Let's prove that people can live on these platforms in a new social way, and that's something that Polynesians are very interested in as well. I mean, we're the original seasteaders in the sense that we've colonized and migrated throughout the Pacific for 1,000 years and covered one of the largest oceans in the world. So living on the ocean is something that Polynesians know about, and I think we have a lot to contribute to the project as well.